Bom dia. Sejam bem-vindos. Eu quero, em nome do Instituto de Relações Internacionais, dar as boas-vindas a todos, né, nesse seminário. Nossas atividades já estão acontecendo, né? Então, é um prazer receber o professor Florent aqui hoje, né, para essa palestra, que é um tema bastante importante, né? Nós temos uma agenda de pesquisa focada nesse tema da inovação, da diplomacia científica. Né? Então, para o IRI, é um tema caro, não só, né, em termos de comparar com outros países, mas também porque é uma agenda de pesquisa relevante que tem crescido muito na área de relações internacionais. Né? Eu estive esse mês na Universidade de Manchester, tratando desse tema, né, num projeto conjunto com eles. Então, eu queria dar as boas-vindas. Essa também é uma iniciativa bastante importante para a gente, em parceria com o Instituto de Estudos Avançados. Então, eu vou passar a palavra ao professor Ari Plonsky, que vai aqui também dar as boas-vindas em nome do Instituto e do programa, né, da pós.
Isso. Muito obrigado, professora Janina. Bom dia. É uma enorme alegria retornar ao IRI, que eu estou passando a considerar minha casa aqui também, tantas vezes eu tenho vindo, e dizer da particular satisfação, primeiro, de integrar a mesa com a professora Janina, nova diretora, a qual eu desejo, junto com o professor Moacir, meu colega da Poli também, que agora assumiu a vice-diretoria, a qual eu desejo, a professora Janina, ao professor Moacir, um enorme êxito junto com a comunidade estudantil, a comunidade docente, a comunidade dos servidores aqui do IRI. Na gestão atual, em particular, sempre foi, mas na gestão atual, em particular, o tema da internacionalização é um tema de enorme importância e, portanto, o IRI é um fulcro, né, uma peça fundamental nesse esforço que a USP tem que reforçar. Eu aproveito para cumprimentar também o professor Amâncio, até recentissimamente vice-diretor, e cumprimentá-lo pela gestão boa que fez. Cumprimentar a Cecília Yamanaka, que foi aquela que organizou, da Poli, colega da Poli, que organizou esse evento. Meus colegas do IEA, que estão aqui presentes, que estão ajudando na infraestrutura. O evento será devidamente registrado e enfim, disponível depois para quem se interessar pelo assunto. Cumprimentar com particular entusiasmo a moçada que está aqui, né? No fundo, todo esse esforço que a gente faz essencialmente pensando em vocês, né? Querendo dar oportunidades de aprendizagem a vocês e oportunidades de aprendizagem fora da sala de aula. Eu estou aqui na dupla representação do Instituto de Estudos Avançados, que é parceiro aqui do IRI, o IA é parceiro do IRI em numerosas atividades, essa é mais uma, e também do Núcleo de Política e Gestão Tecnológica. Esse núcleo ele agrega docentes da USP, principalmente das áreas de engenharia, administração e economia, interessados no tema da inovação, e também o núcleo tem uma relação forte com o IRI, particularmente numa disciplina de pós-graduação que é oferecida em inglês na FEA, chamada Science, Technology and Innovations International Dimension. Ela é dada, já foi dada em 2 edições, será dada uma 3ª edição esse ano, se tudo correr bem, em parceria com o professor Alberto Pfeiffer, que acabou de assumir a coordenação do GACINT, que é também um braço, vamos dizer assim, de reflexão, análise de conjuntura, né, que é o nome formal aqui do IRI. Então, eu diria que, fazendo aqui uma brincadeira, né, por vários poros, né, quase todos os poros, tenho aqui, a gente tem uma vinculação com o IME, pelo IEA, pelo PGT, e pessoalmente um admirador da casa. É uma particular alegria a gente poder rever o professor Florent Pratlong, da Universidade de Sorbonne, e que é um habitué do Brasil, não é isso? já teve a Cátedra Lévi-Strauss, será apresentado provavelmente pelo professor Moacir, mas queria dizer que não é um paraquedista, né, que veio aqui, fica 2 dias, dá uma palestra e vai embora. Ele tem um comprometimento, uma relação forte com o Brasil, e a vinda dele também vamos dizer assim, a vinda dele tem a ver com uma ideia de fazermos uma cooperação mais sistemática. Eu não vou entrar no tema da palestra, daqui a pouco o professor Moacir vai apresentá-lo, mas não posso deixar de mencionar que o tema inovação e cultura, né, que está na essência, é um tema essencial. Inovação se tornou, de certa maneira, uma espécie, entre aspas, né, de um mantra, né? E precisamos de inovação, temos um problema, precisamos inovar. O que é inovar? Muita gente entende de formas diferentes, mas não apenas hoje temos a percepção de que o tema da inovação tem que ser olhado por múltiplos aspectos. Temos certamente startups e coisas bonitas novas, mas e posto de trabalho e a transição, a questão que se fala popularmente inovação e emprego, mas eu queria chamar a atenção que há camadas culturais mais profundas na discussão do tema inovação e cultura, em particular, e realmente não vou tomar o tempo só para concluir, chamar a atenção que há casos registrados importantes de professores na Idade Média, não é? E que foram presos por serem considerados inovadores, né? Na Idade Média e mais adiante, até praticamente o século XIX, com a ascensão do utilitarismo, né? Inovar era visto como alguma coisa contrária, né? Ferindo o que era mais relevante, que eram as tradições. Eu acho que o professor Florent nos vai dar um panorama extremamente interessante, como é que nós conseguimos, na sociedade, equilibrar tradição, inovação e sensibilidade aos valores principais da humanidade. Muito obrigado pelo convite, é um prazer retomar essa parceria no começo do ano com o IRI.
Bom dia a todos, a todas, aos meus colegas da mesa, professora Janina, minha diretora, professor Florent, nosso convidado especial, professor Ari, meu grande amigo de longuíssima data. Nós tínhamos cabelo naquela época. Então, é um grande prazer estar aqui, principalmente porque essa é a minha primeira participação num evento oficial do Instituto de Relações Internacionais como seu vice-diretor. Então, é uma honra, um prazer, uma alegria muito grande em estar aqui. E, principalmente, envolvendo uma parceria que vem de muito tempo aqui dentro da universidade, que conecta inovação, internacionalização, pesquisa científica, pesquisa social, que é o IRI, o IEA, o PGT e o Instituto de Estudos Brasil-Europa, que faz a conexão do Brasil com a Europa, né, do ponto de vista da pesquisa, né? Então isso é um prazer muito grande dentro dessa conexão toda. Tá vendo, né, que essa parceria ela está cada vez mais forte e para o bem da universidade, né? Porque a universidade ela deve trabalhar em conjunto, porque a internacionalização ela vai acontecer por aí, né? Desde o lado conceitual, passando as discussões, passando ao lado prático dos projetos e da inovação. Então, é um grande prazer estar aqui e agradeço a presença de todos e especialmente a presença do professor Florent, né, que como o professor Ari Plonsky mencionou, ele já é um amigo de algum tempo aqui da Universidade de São Paulo e do IRI e do IEA. Então, isso é bastante importante, porque a relação internacional ela se faz por confiança, ela se faz pelo tempo que você convive, ela se faz pela diplomacia. Então, isso é realmente bastante interessante. E dentro do tema de hoje, da discussão de hoje, né, que é Global Exploration into Cultures, Innovation and Innovation Models. Né, quer dizer, isso é algo bastante bastante alentador, né, que nós estamos colocando os aspectos culturais, portanto, os aspectos sociais junto com a inovação. Vale a pena até talvez informar vocês que existe um projeto financiado pela Comissão Europeia, que o Brasil faz parte, a USP faz parte, que olha, ou está tentando fazer uma análise. Eu estou falando tentando, porque é muito complicado fazer essa análise. Depende de cenários, depende de uma série de parâmetros que estão sendo discutidos, né? Está tentando, então, fazer uma análise do ponto de vista da relação entre os dois blocos, União Europeia, América Latina e Caribe, considerando as dimensões cultural, social e científica. Focado no quê? Focado na produção de inovação social e inovação tecnológica. É interessante, porque esses temas estão todos ligados, né? E pensando um pouquinho, né? Quer dizer, inovação está conectada à cultura. Cultura muda. Cultura é dinâmica. E cultura influencia diretamente na sociedade, nos aspectos sociais, portanto, na inovação social. Então, é um desafio muito grande essa discussão, né? Quer dizer, isso leva a uma discussão de como a relação internacional ela interfere, influencia positivamente ou negativamente na inovação. Existe a tal da diplomacia da inovação, da diplomacia científica, né, que são temas que estão sendo discutidos no mundo inteiro, né? Como é que a diplomacia pode realmente melhorar a eficiência dos processos de inovação. Dentro disso, aí tem o nosso palestrante, né, que vai fazer uma apresentação para, em seguida, termos uma discussão que eu espero que seja bastante profícua. Falando um pouquinho do professor Florent. O professor Florent é professor da Universidade de Sorbonne, em Paris 1. E ele é diretor do mestrado em inovação e gestão tecnológica. Portanto, bem dentro do que estamos falando aqui. Ele é secretário científico na Academia de Tecnologia da França. Ele é ex-conselheiro do serviço do primeiro-ministro da França e perito da Comissão Europeia sobre questões de desenvolvimento sustentável e previsão econômica. E vice-diretor da Cátedra Sorbonne em empreendedorismo, território e inovação. Quer dizer, então, com o currículo que o professor Florent tem, com a experiência internacional que ele tem, ele é uma pessoa muito boa para colocar a experiência, né, para colocar as ideias de como a gente pode melhorar o aspecto, os modelos de inovação, processo de inovação, considerando o mundo como um todo, sendo globalmente estudado. Ok, então, para não atrasar o professor Florent, gostaria de passar a palavra para ele, para que ele nos apresente suas ideias. Muito obrigado.
So, it will be my pleasure to present you this palestra dealing today with global exploration into cultures and innovation models. This topic is to mainly try to observe, understand what is going on considering innovation in different countries. With this aspect that we have an important characteristic dealing with the culture inside different countries. So as we deal with this world tour of innovation, we will have to start with some data, figures on science, research and development, evolution of this, and then we will try to go through more what is about vision, different vision for innovation in different countries, considering that I try to make a global presentation focusing on different countries. What makes the characteristic of each country, considering the innovation, the research, and the relation with society and culture. I will start with what if I would ask to say you which is the innovative country? Most of you would have said US due to a startup boom, Google, Apple, and so on. So we'll try to understand why US appear to be one of the most important countries considering innovation and startup. Then, as I come from Paris and from Sorbonne University, I want to focus on Europe. Because Europe is, I would say, a whole continent with a diversity of countries. I will try to make what may be the European model of innovation, but we will have to focus on what is the diversity of innovation considering different countries in Europe. Because you could not deal with innovation in Germany as if you would speak for innovation in France or in Iberic countries or in England, northern countries, Italy. So in considering the model, the European model of innovation, there is a diversity for this, for culture, for technology, and for business. Then we will try to observe these emerging, I would say, not even now the emerging countries, but one of the most powerful economies, which is China. So what is going on now in China today? Is what China is doing in terms of policy for research and development, for infrastructure project. What about startups? What is your appreciation about China? After this, don't forget India, because India will become one of the most important countries just in the next 10 years, and maybe even in the next 10 years. After this, we could have present Japan and South Korea, and I will try to finish with what is the Brazilian model, what I can view as a European researcher, how we can consider the model of innovation of Brazil. Is there a model of innovation, una cultura da inovação in Brazil? So if we see what is going on considering research, innovation, transformation, we have this process you may know from Schumpeter analysis, which is a destruction and creation process. From the new research, from the new innovation, we have boom in economy. And this boom in economy is going faster and faster. And you could see here, we have this process of the revolution. It starts just like 20, 50 years ago. And what you could see is that it goes faster and faster, and the cycle of the change is going closer and closer. Why? It's because now, if we look to some figures at international level, we have more than 2 billion patents a year. We have like 12 million researchers. The number of scientific publications is 110,000. And we know that the global budget for research and development is about $1,500 billion. And what we have to consider is that the figures will double just in 10 years. So it means that the process of change, the process of innovation research will go faster and faster. From this, if we try to look some international concerns, we have to think about, okay, we have to do research, we have to do innovation, but where it is oriented for? Because we have fundamental research, but it has maybe to be linked to what is the social problem, what people are expecting in the society, in the economy. If we look, for instance, here, you could see that countries are not expecting the same things in terms of what is important for them. For sure, you have this global concern, considering that we own to the same planet, so reorientate together maybe in the same orientation. But considering the diversity of the countries, the concerns for economics, for development is not the same. So this table maybe reveals that the focus on innovation, the orientation of innovation will be different according to the different countries. If we look to scientific output, if you deal with innovation, you can say it's linked to research. Considering scientific outputs in terms of publication, in terms of publication development, you have the most powerful country, which is US, and then going directly with China, United Kingdom. I would say US and United Kingdom, it's very easy because they publish in English. As I am a French, I have to publish, I have to translate, and for Portuguese you have to do so. You could see here France is not so bad, and Brazil is ranked at this level. France is not so bad because we have a very powerful institution for research, such as the CNRS. which is a public institution trying to promote the scientific publication. We have also some ranking considering countries, and this is the international ranking considering regions. So now if we look to the last leaders in innovation, the most innovative countries is Switzerland, Sweden, Netherlands, US, and United Kingdom. But this ranking is changing based on research output, innovation, transformation, business, evolution of culture. With this, we can also think about if you have an input, it's depending on what is the amount of output you implement. So what is the amount of national research and development investment we have for countries, considering this evolution? So you could see that some countries are increasing their value in terms of percentage of GDP, but on average, most of the countries dedicate like 2.2% for GDP for research and development. And here it's researcher not only for public, but it's also researcher for private companies. So this is the ranking for researcher. So here it's the amount, considering 1,000 employee inside company, of researcher in business. So you could see here France is not so bad, and one of the most important country in terms of having research transfer inside business is Japan. So here is also, you can say about output, amount of investment, but it's also what it costs. What is the cost for one researcher at international level? So here you could see the diversity for the cost. It costs more in US. It's not so, the cost, this is in dollars. This is not so heavy for the cost in Brazil. And France is not so bad because we have a lot of incentive for subsidies. So here is the R&D expenditure. So South Korea, Israel. Israel is because we have a lot of research and development in the military sectors. Here is the global approach, considering the amount of investment for research and development for each countries in 2015. So you could see US, China, European Union, and then Japan, South Korea. But research is not only a matter for countries, it's also a matter for companies. And what you could see is now we have new actors in terms of innovation, new actors in terms of research and development. As you could see here is the evolution up to 2004. And this is what happened in 2015. Look at these figures. It means that companies are investing a lot in terms of research and development. So we have this transfer from what was the research, the traditional fundamental research, now which is moving towards big business companies. And you could see here, for instance, Microsoft, Samsung, Apple, which is not doing big research. You could see here, it's not so bad, but it's not so as we were expecting. So here it's the different companies in terms of research. We have this kind of figures where research here, so where the innovation could be considering different orientation for sectors activities. So here is the spread in terms of computing, healthcare, industrial, software, and others, considering different countries. So who is doing more research, in what area, in which sectors, in which countries. But if we deal with all of these figures in terms of research and innovation, we have to evaluate considering the importance of the GDP, but also the importance of wealth. So if we mix the ranking, it's not as direct, which we could say maybe Switzerland is first because it's a very powerful country in terms of GDP. It's easier for maybe Switzerland to do research and development than for China or for India. So here is the comparison considering this adaptation. Research, innovation can be linked to patent. What is about patent? The first is Japan. First in 2016 with like 37,000 patents. US, China, Germany, and this is here the different issues. You have this evolution. What you could see is from 2007, China was ranked at the 9th position, and it goes here better, and you have this evolution. Japan is a very patenting country. We have to think about, is patent link, is research link for innovation, for transformation, for value and business? It's only figures now. I would say if we focus on patenting in Brazil, it's a bit, I would say, the nightmare. It takes very, very long. But what I could tell you is when you have a patent in Brazil, your patent worth more than, I would say, one Japanese patent, one Chinese patent, because this patent is very analyzed and it's very valuable for business, for society. So maybe it's a longer process, but it's more valuable in terms of return on investment. It's for billions dollars. Considering this data, we could also think about, do you think innovation is only linked with researcher, investment in research and development, patent? No. We could have some other figures considering the evolution, the potential evolution for innovation. So for instance, here, if we look to the internet penetration, and as we consider the digital transformation, digital evolution, digital revolution, maybe it's an important figure to consider. And what you could see is here, you have big amount. For instance, here in South America, it's increasing. We have these figures considering the internet penetration per countries. You could see Brazil is somewhere I could not find. I have some figures after that for Brazil. Time spent on internet, yeah. Brazilian people are spending a lot of time on computer and devices. What they are doing, we have to know. Are they innovating, improving, searching, chatting, making friends? So this is what we have to understand. So here is the digital distribution, which can be also says to say, digital is the next step for the revolution. So where the potential for innovation, digital innovation could be, considering this. So here is the global penetration. You have 3.7 billion people using internet and like 50%. So what about the others? I would say people, old people, poor people, and so on. And here is some data for Brazil. So let's start with some models for innovation for countries, and I will try to go fast through this presentation. If we have to consider what can characterize USA is a very scientific and technological power, very powerful country in terms of science and technology. The case of Silicon Valley is something very exceptional, and a lot of new business startups appear in Silicon Valley. Military innovation, which is supporting a lot of the research with this transfer through business. Entrepreneurship with this value. Entrepreneurship which is linked to venture capital. And it's very easy if you have money to do some entrepreneurship. If you can take the risk and if you can have some money, it's very easy to go for innovation. And we have these cases for, I would say, example of American business for innovation. So here is, everybody was expecting US was on crisis, but if we look to some figures, we could see that, okay, now US is recovering through GDP, economic growth. The federal debt is a bit increasing, and here the unemployment is returning to what was previously. So it means that the trend in US is improving, even with this election of this president, considering that, okay, it goes better. Who could expect that President Trump could have been elected? So it's also what is happening in the US, in economy and in terms of politics. US is also characterized by a lot of university, very interesting university, very powerful universities in terms of research. And with this special focus on MIT. MIT is something exceptional. There is not so many students. There is about like less than 10,000 students, but it's very business-oriented, technological-oriented, innovation-oriented. Maybe we have to think about this example of MIT because it's very well known. It's a small but flexible structure, and it helps a lot to promote innovation, to promote research. Here is the evolution in for the research and development. So you could see this exponential increase in the US, considering federal industries and others. The share, you could see part of the research and development is done by the different sectors. For the case of what is the Silicon Valley is something exceptional. You could see here, this is the representation of the Silicon Valley with very, very small business. It's what makes the Silicon Valley exceptional. You have close distance with competencies, high-trained people, possibility for finance, a kind of network, spillover community, and a very powerful youth energy that is inspiring this digital transformation in the Silicon Valley. It's one of the examples in the world. So here is something that is increasing and turning on. But I would say, what is about in other states in US? You have the Silicon Valley, and what else? You could not say that America is succeeding in terms of innovation and research if everything is concentrated here in Silicon Valley. We could focus on the same orientation, like what is happening in Brazil, if everything is focused on the states of São Paulo. So we have to think about the global approach in terms of the country. So here you could see some orientation in different spots of the country based on what was, for instance, the previous specialization of the different states. So here you could now find in Silicon Valley most of the dynamic digital companies in the world from this transformation. It's not only an orientation for business, it's also going for, I would say, now the orientation for sustainability. The next step for digital transformation research is things that are going for smart grids, for going for sustainable technology, energy efficiency, nanotechnology, biotechnology. And this is what is supporting in terms of investment, for instance, in California. It's maybe the new orientation. The next step for the revolution in innovation will be considering green. But you have also figures for a nice experience for startup in the US. Why US is so exceptional in terms of innovation? It's because US is focusing mainly most of the venture capital in the world. So if you have funds, you could take this benefit to invest on innovation, on entrepreneurship. So you could see here the total US venture capital going up. So here you have I would say, the bubble, which was based on the technology in the beginning of the 2000. And here, US is definitely concentrated most of the financing for innovation and for technology and for research. If you consider what people are looking for US, what they are trying to do and what they think in terms of orientation and business, they say, okay, in the next step now, innovation will be the transformation. We will do creative business. And we will let the developing countries to do the routine work from the others. So they say, okay, in terms of perspective, this is what the government is trying to implement. We try more to focus on this creative orientation. But we don't have to forget big companies in US. We were doing a lot in terms of innovation. For instance, here, Airbus, with this project, I don't know if you know Dreamliner. Dreamliner was exceptional in the construction of the project because it was involving fundamental research from universities. It was involving private research from Boeing company, but it was also involving the innovation in relation with the customer. You could not do a smart plane if you are not expecting to what people who are flying are returning in terms of what they could experience. So here, this is the approach of Boeing considering the innovation in the way to make things simple, because innovation is to make things simple, eliminate, raise the number of passengers, reduce, increase the energy efficiency, and create here more opportunity in terms of flexibility, in terms of development, in terms of services. If you deal with American business, it's this example of Google. Google is very interesting way to do innovation. Google is not doing a lot of innovation. It's doing innovation in terms of network. It means that you are a user of Google, so can you provide me some contribution in the way that I will collaborate with you, in the way that you can find application and I can invest with you? So it's not a big society for doing innovation alone, research alone, but it's doing innovation and research considering the contribution of the users. And this is how Google started to develop, considering many, many devices. Another example is the one of Apple with this motto, think difference. Who could guess that this guy, Steve Jobs, who was, from his origin, Steve Jobs was without parents, and he studied in school calligraphy. is a calligrapher. And from that, he decides to launch and to say, okay, calligraphy is beautiful, but if I want to help people to use this calligraphy on their computer to select the style, I have to work with someone in informatics. So he was providing this architecture for informatics. And this example of Steve Jobs is very nice because his approach for innovation was exceptional, considering that you don't have to think in terms of technology. What you have to think is about what are the customers, who is the users. Think about who is using, think about who is adapting, consuming. And then you have to move backward to know, okay, this is the technology and how I can propose you the technology and implement you the technology in the product I'm offering to you. And this is what is going now with bestsellers product. US economy is mainly specialized also in terms of network economy with the development of Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. So here you can see some figures considering this evolution of the internet sectors, the network sectors. It means that now US is starting to specialize in this orientation. But what about General Motors? What about the previous industries, such as what was in Chicago? I would say in economy, we say the real industry. But it moved to this kind of industry. So it means that we have an evolution in the process of innovation in the US. But we also have some very nice companies doing a lot of innovation in terms of product, in terms of marketing. For instance, here you could see Procter & Gamble. It's one of the most innovative companies considering product management, the way to design it, the way to propose the product. And it's sometimes very simple product, but Procter & Gamble is doing a lot for innovation in relation with the customers, in relation with the business. So here the value is this one. Go to the market, think about the productivity, build a strong brand for innovation. This is what I could say from US perspective. If we go for Europe, Europe is appearing to some of you a kind of unit, global partnership between countries, but it has to consider the biodiversity within the different countries. You have here, for instance, the German model of innovation based on technology, based on operational technology, like the machine. And we could say the German quality, which is very, very good. We have the Italian approach of innovation. Turn to the design, turn to more orientation based on what is humanism, fashion. We have what is the model for Spanish. Look what happened to Barcelona. Just in 10 years, Barcelona was developing a lot, and it was an example of smart cities. It was beginning of what could be the smart cities in Europe. We have the model from the Northern countries, such as Finland, Denmark, Norway. We have also, I would say, the example of the UK model and the French model, and I will deal with you about this French model. So if we consider, I would say, European Union, we could say that European Union is an innovation. How it could go, these countries were competing and fighting and doing two world wars, and now they decide to promote something new in a collaboration, to go for an improvement, to go for welfare. If I define innovation, innovation is to introduce the novelty in the way to increase the welfare. This is a political novelty, collaboration between countries for the welfare of the Europeans and citizens. And here, what is the roots of European Union is what is based on the rebirth, on the Renaissance. When Leonardo da Vinci was saying, the man is the measures of everything. If you do with innovation, you have to focus on the man. You have to focus on the users. It's not only technology. It deals with the culture. It deals with the citizen. It deals with the social approach. Considering that here, where are the most innovative countries in Europe? It's mainly this, the leaders for innovation are here. It's northern countries with Germany. You see, France is not so bad. I'm glad because I'm a bit French. But England, not. And you have also these emerging countries. So here you have the ranking of innovative companies in Europe. But countries doesn't mean global approach within country. For sure, France is innovative, but everything is concentrated in Paris. What about here, for instance, in Germany? It's concentrated in the south of Germany, the border near the French frontiers. So here you could see the diversity of the innovation region inside the European Union. With different examples of startups and model for development for innovation, we could say a kind of specialization process through this innovation. A European model for innovation was this collaboration. European countries decide to go together to develop Airbus industry. And this Airbus industry is here. You could see everybody is bringing the best of its heart, the best of its technology, and to decide to build a project together. And this is here the European project. And it's not going so bad, because we managed to compete against Boeing. So it means that going together, make a team of innovation, considering the diversity of the country, can result in terms of innovation. We also have this project for spaces, like Ariane Espace, which is here the collaboration. You could see it's the same. A collaboration in terms of technology, the diversity of the orientation of science and technology, with all the flags from the countries. But also Europe is an example of innovation, considering what it's proposing for daily life and what we propose, for instance, in terms of in education, with this Erasmus program. We were thinking to say, now we make the 30 years birthday of Erasmus, and it's an innovation to make the European citizen, the European student to exchange, to make the contact. Because if you have a diversity of contact, a diversity of culture, oh, I learned that from Italy, but I am from France. Okay, but maybe with my French spirit, I'm mixing the German technology, and then it's a way, to propose. And then it's a way to combine the different possibilities. So it's very, very good program, and it's very innovative program in the way for collaboration. But Europe is also characterized in terms of very, very innovative companies. If you see now what is one of the most important companies in the world, it's here. Blah, 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 Zara. Armancio Ortega, one of the richest men in the world, with Zara, only with clothes. Because he is thinking innovation in terms of what is the design for the product. For instance, today I'm dressed in Zara. What is the supply chain to go very fast? Because in Paris now it's very cold, so I have to propose warm products. But if tomorrow it will be warmer, I have to propose warmer product. So here it's example of succeeding companies in terms of innovation, project management. And for instance, if you look the diversity of what we have in terms of automobile sectors, it's what we can manage here. All of these brands are famous for product transformation, energy efficiency, as well in the fashion industries. And you could see here, for instance, Louis Vuitton is now worth more than bank. And Louis Vuitton, Hermès, if you are not able to develop your style, if you are not able to develop your design, do you think the customer will come and buy the same bag, buy the same clothes? No. You have to renew all the time. You have to adapt close to your customers. And European companies in terms of fashion are succeeding good. And the capitalization is even more important than the one in the bank sectors. Look at this diversity of cheese. What is the diversity of cheese in Brazil? Queijo Minas, and what's more? In Europe, what is the diversity of cheese? So it means that if you focus on your reality, you can propose a lot of things. For instance, the model of Bosch is a very old company. For instance, here you could see Bosch is patenting 22 patents per day. Yeah, 22 patents per day. So it means that in 1 week, they are patenting more than Brazil. Because they are in the process of orientation, they are in the process of research, technology, application, and a very good business management. So here you could see these figures. It's implemented worldwide. So here they dedicate like 7.5 billion to research and development. Now focusing on very important issues like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. What is the next step for Industry 4.0? It's the next steps for innovation. So here you could see some figures. Germany, when we speak about innovation models in Germany, we say Germans are very good for science, for technological excellence. We have very good institutes like the Max Planck Institute, the Fraunhofer Institute, very powerful leaders like Siemens, Daimler, and it's a very good middle business companies. German science, but it's also German science with German philosopher. It's not only science and technology, but it's more an orientation about a global approach. And if you could see here, Hegel, Kant, which we are proposing, new approach for philosophy, new approach for society, helping then the society to renew. Here, this is what you could see. The Fraunhofer is a model of innovation transfer, saying that you have the innovation, you have the research in the university, you have the business. How you link? If you have a lot of research and publication, but if it doesn't go to the business, if it doesn't go to the society, how it goes? So the Germans are very practical. They are very operational. And within the Fraunhofer Institute, it's an example of how they structure the innovation model. Another example of a succeeding German company is here, Siemens. From more than 150 years ago, Siemens is improving a lot in terms of quality, diversity of product. So here you could see here the Germans are very good. This is what helps them to make a lot of surpluses in terms of trade balance. Germany is one of the most important countries in terms of exports, which helps a lot for economies. So here are the main German figures. You could say in Germany everything is good, but look at these figures. Retired people are becoming poorer and poorer. The inequality are increasing. So it doesn't mean because you are good in technology and science that the society is going better. And you could see what happened to Angela Merkel in the way she was trying to be re-elected. Let's turn to the French model. French model of innovation is about a dual model, very high-tech model, and a very high involvement of the government, trying to lead, trying to support for innovation. We have some public excellence, such as the CNRS. For instance, one of the former Fields Medal was a Brazilian researcher, which was doing his research in the CNRS. It's the Centre National pour la Recherche Scientifique. But we are very powerful in terms of innovation, transformation in the luxury. We have this renewal in terms of entrepreneurship. The booming of entrepreneurship is very, very important in France. And we have a lot of study cases succeeding. So here you could see the amount of research and development we invest in France. We are on average 2.5%, which is not, we are in the middle. Considering innovation and transformation, we have a lot of intervention from the government. We have a lot of agency. For instance, here we have a secretary dedicated for research and pesquisa, inovação. We have some evaluation agency. We have some specific orientation to support the development innovation for small business. For instance, in France, if you have an idea, you can have a lot of grants. France is and even for innovation investment, because we have a lot of supports. For instance, we have the Crédit Impôt Recherche, which was it's the equivalent of Lloyd Bain you have here in Brazil, making an incentive for companies to invest in innovation. But if you compare the structure, there is a difference between France and US. In France, we are more tend to be very hierarchical, thinking about big companies, where in the US it's about this booming strategy in terms of sectors. But it's changing, because what you could see is that here, French people want to go for entrepreneurship. You have 30% of the students of the French, of the men and women, Frenchmen and French women, who wants to go for a startup, who wants to develop a business. What is the incentive for empreendedorismo in Brazil? Do you want to open your startup? Do you want to launch your own company, or are you looking just to work in big companies? So we have this renewal of entrepreneurship in France, which is here characterized by the French tech. For instance, in the CES in Las Vegas, the second most powerful represented country was France, with very, very innovative countries. In different sectors, here in the way to federate, accelerate, and here. So these are the main trends for the investment in France. You see it's going faster and faster. We have this transformation. We have a lot now of investment in research, development, tech company, startups. Chanel is an example of innovation, transformation about how we were dressing. And here you could see what Chanel was doing. Innovation, one cannot be therefore innovating. I want to create. France is a very creative country in terms of model for innovation. What about this success? Number 5, Chanel. It's worldwide, well known, and it's a long product. So it means that we still continue to be on the best. because we adapt on advertising to connect to the people. L'Oréal is also a very, very big company for product development in the way that it starts with Jean Schuller. He was a chemistry professor in Sorbonne University. And he says, okay, someone came and say, oh, I have a product to find for you. It was to color the hair. And he was proposing something, and it started to open his company. He was the one who invented the solar cream. Why L'Oréal invented the solar cream? Because in 1936, France, with political reason, started to increase the number of vacancies for employees. But as the employees were going on the sea, they were completely sunburned. So we need something to protect them. And as I am a chemist, a chemical professor, I can maybe find of what I know from chemistry to propose you a cream to protect yourself. So from what we can observe in terms of needs, what we can observe in terms of evolution, we have this. So here is, for instance, the development of L'Oréal. It's not Bosch, but it's not so bad. Mainly 500 patents a year. Louis Vuitton, trying to renew all the time the style, culture. Innovation is not only technology. Innovation is also creativity. And look, Louis Vuitton was very, very small, but now it's one of the biggest international companies in the world, mainly $20 billion in terms of success. And you could see here the success in terms of capital venture for Louis Vuitton. We are in France also very good in health sectors. For instance, we have Sanofi. Sanofi is a pharmaceutical company investing a lot with a specific orientation for management. The Pasteur Institute, very well known worldwide, trying to focus on disease, established in different countries. We have the Institute Pasteur in France. The invention of the artificial heart. What happened with Carmat in terms of innovation. So we are a kind of hub for the excellence in terms of innovation for health. But also for the environment. You have here Suez Environnement, and you have also Veolia. Can you imagine that among half of the planet is having some water driven by these French companies because we have some participation in local companies at worldwide level. France is an excellence in terms of innovation, technology, treatment for waters, for energy efficiency. And I would say what happened in France, could you imagine that this guy, just being 39-year-old, is just 40-year-old now since December, was being elected president of France? It's a political innovation because he was trying to observe how it was going for the citizen. And he succeeded to be elected. Nobody could guess, but he was using innovative method, creative method in the way to do the politics. What could happen for the next step in Brazil? We are competing since, it will start in April. So Italy. Italy, originality of Italy for innovation, excellence for creation, Italian district, very well known, family, brand control, family keep the control. It's not you are not developing a business and then you sell your business. Family continue from father to daughter, from sister to brothers and so on. And we have a very lot of innovation considering the design, the relation with the sensuality. Italy was innovated. It was the case for a long time ago, 2,000 years ago. A lot like for the Caracalla bath, the development of roads. Could you imagine what they were doing without any technology? What we can do now? For instance, what is the bridge in Rio de Janeiro? What the Romans were building in terms of bridge. Their bridge are keeping for long. If you build a bridge in Rio de Janeiro, when it's falling down, it's not funny, but this is what is happening. So they were knowing a lot. Italian is very well known for the design, made in Italy. And this is the excellence of the design, the excellence of the innovation. Very good institution for design, very well known and recognized. For instance, here, Politecnico Milano, very old and recognized for engineering, science, innovation, and technology. So here it's, I would say, big orientation for innovation and design creation. Why? Because Italy was one of the center of the Renaissance, the rebirth. Could you imagine what we were, the invention of the policy with Laurent de Médicis? The invention of the smart cities. One of the first smart cities was Florence, Firenze. The invention of, we changed hearts, we changed Galileo. It was what happening in Italy in terms of orientation. Italy is well known for as well to think about the design, but to produce from the disegno to the concetto, the Italian conception, made in Italy. It's a quality for innovation. The chef-d'œuvre, what is well known from Italy. And here you could see that it's not global Italy. It's here, mainly the north of Italy, where you have all of the districts with this specialization process. I was saying you that Italy is very powerful in terms of innovation and business development, because when we have a strong company, it's transferring through families. And this is here the example of the Armani family, from the father to the mothers and the children. And it continues to have, to support the same spirit, the same orientation for innovation with what is the success of Armani and the Italian brand about creativity and innovation. But also the design. Alesi, it's very for more than 100 years ago. And here is the Italian design. What about Fiat, who bought Chrysler? The small Italian car company buying an American company, because Fiat is very well known for the design. Look at what is now turning around the individual, completely technological digital cars. These small Italian companies. And Italy is also innovating in terms of sometimes being provocative. Look at what Benetton was doing in terms of advertising this or this. And it's what Italy is bringing in terms of innovation, creativity. United Kingdom, very fast, scientific excellence, the attraction of London, the renew of London, a lot of business creation, the contribution of the British design, which is not so bad as well, and Dyson. I was innovating to say, I have to make a simple product. And why people would buy this? They can buy Chinese product. It's because it's design. It's because it's different. It's because it's the best technology. And it's maybe 10, 20 times, 100 times more expensive than a Chinese product. And this is here the importance of design in the process of innovation from the UK aspect. Northern European countries, excellence for innovation, combination, like you have the best education, best research, based design, entrepreneurship, quality of life, social coverage, Scandinavian business. Look what is the value of social democracy. Everybody in school is collaborating. It's one of the best country ranked for PISA. This ranking for mathematics, reading, and so on, because they improve a lot in terms of education. And it's countries where people are happy. As you were looking for the map of most innovative countries in Europe, it was the Northern Europe countries. And it's where people are happy. The most people happy in Europe, in the world even, are the one in here. You see France is not so good. And here it's maybe the evolution of the social democracy, the difference between a capitalism approach and a social democracy approach. In a capitalism approach, you are only in the market. In a social democracy, you have the market, you have the capitalism. It's not to be against the capitalism. We have to believe in the market. But it's also to think about how we can develop the network, how we can link the people together. And sometimes the government has to act to support this connection. So here you could see in terms of research and development per GDP, they are not so bad. Finland, Sweden, Denmark, they dedicate most of their GDP to research and development. In the way that here, this is R&D expenditure based on GDP. It's among, I would say, one of the best countries in the world. Here is the R&D expenditure per habitant. So you see they dedicate a lot in terms of research, creativity, design, transformation, orientation. And what is very funny, it doesn't go with economics, competitivity, and taxation. The level of taxation in this country is very high. And their competitiveness is important. Why? Because taxation helps for research, development, investment in education, which have a return for competitiveness, which have a return, positive return for the economy. So here you could see the ranking in terms of Lisbon objective for in IT information, liberalization, networks, financial service, environment. They are among one of the best countries ranking for the Lisbon agenda, trying to transform Europe in the best. The value, best education. Here is the pyramid of excellence. Think about infrastructure, very good infrastructure, high level of education, competitiveness, think globally. You have here region and attractiveness, entrepreneurship. The Scandinavian style. It's the opposite of the Italian one. Italian was very sensual, very attractive, a lot of threads. In the Scandinavian style, it's minimalist, but it goes. It's nice. Look, Denmark, Playmobil. Playmobil is an example, it's something innovative. You don't have to have a puppet with all the things. You make a very simple things because you help the children to build by themselves their story. You don't have to make it complicated. Make it simple. And Playmobil story is a successful story in terms of innovation. IKEA. Who could guess? I will let the people to build by themselves the furniture. IKEA, very simple, very design, accessible for everybody. Also challenge in terms of smart city. Here is the city of Copenhagen, very well known for the development of smart city, quality of the environment. Quality of the environment means quality of transport, innovation in transport, quality in air, quality in economy, quality in business development. So here is all the things. And for instance, here, look what Denmark, it's one of the most innovative countries considering wind power, energy efficiency. Switzerland, I know it's not in Europe, but let's say Switzerland, it's one of the best ranked at the national level for your top index for innovation. You have here competitivity. Switzerland competitivity is made in Switzerland, so it means you can trust. Here is what they are doing in terms of research. A very good network for universities. How many Nobel Prize in Switzerland? 20. How many Brazilian Nobel Prize? Switzerland. It's very, very small. So you could see it's ranking in the Shanghai. The amount of patent, very high level for patenting. Here, Swiss thinking. The EPFL, maybe if you are from engineering side, EPFL is an example. You have Polytech Milano, you have Fraunhofer. Here, EPFL is a very good example in terms of research orientation, very practical research. Here is also Switzerland turning for caring about the environment, sustainability, the next step. What it was doing in California as well. And Nestlé, the development, it's like for more than 100 years, and always trying to renew Nespresso. I have to think what people need, how we can make things simple. So it's this example of, it doesn't have also to be technological. It can be very simple. So look here, it's like Procter & Gamble. Nestlé, Procter & Gamble are most innovative countries. Swatch, you have to pay this, 50 euro, but you can buy a Chinese watch. But this is design, this is cool, I have to think about this. And Swatch was very unsuccessful companies in the 80s. In the 90s, because we have the Chinese-Japanese competition with the informatic watch. But they say, okay, let's think to make things more simple. And then they also move to make a car, a very simple car, easy car to park, to move. This is Swatch approach. This is the Switzerland approach of innovation. China. I will go fast with China. Not fast because it's a big country. China. China is it's not a new country. Everybody says, oh, China is starting, but China is not starting. We have this origin from the Chinese dynasty, and it goes from fast. Look, they were developing a lot of innovation, and they were bringing this innovation through the Silk Road in the Renaissance. I would say half of the innovation introduced in Europe from the 15th to the 17th century came from China through this, because China was in advance in terms of orientation for research. Here, it's an encyclopedia produced in United Kingdom, saying that the compass, I don't know how to translate for the cannon, for the weapons, silk. Printing, it comes from China. They were doing that for a long time ago. And you know China was developing the compass. How we can connect together if we don't have any compass? How people can move from one country, from one region to another one? And they were the one who invented these things. But this is very simple. Is it complicated, Professor Moassier, to make a USB? Yes? No? Yeah, so they were doing this And this is the evolution of the innovation in China. They were developing the post transport. They were doing this like in the beginning of the 14th century. They were doing a huge encyclopedia with more than 11,000 volumes, trying to have the whole knowledge of the world, because they were eager to understand where the world, where the knowledge was going on. And here we have a stop, maybe due to, I would say, communism, or to some orientation from kingdom, which were not good. But now it's going faster and faster. Look, it's the development of China. Look, this, from this date. You see how fast it's going? And the second one following here is India. I can put it here, starting from the 70s. So it's how it goes, very, very fast. And it will be in front of US very, very soon in terms of contribution for GDP. So you see here, China, normally we say country when they develop, we have this exponential development. China was saying, me, I don't want to follow the traditional order in development. I want to make a bet to say, I will invest, I will open, I will invest in innovation, and my process doesn't have to go as the other developing countries. I will go from here directly to a developed country. Because here I invest a lot in terms of research and development. And this is what will help to contribute for the increase in GDP. And you could see here, China is increasing very fast in terms of Europe is going down, but China is increasing exponential. You have here anticipation for research and development expenditure. Look at this. You have the US, but China is going like from 2012 to 2030, it will increase a lot. And here you have this patent deposit. China was not existing in the 70s. It was neither start to exist in the 90s, but look at this huge increase in patent development. Why China is doing this innovation strategy? Because first, what is in China is a state orientation. The state is there because we have some strategic plan, orientation for investment, infrastructure, big programs towards innovation and technology. But in the same time, companies are focusing on research and development. It's not, I do a little bit of research and development. No. I have to do research of development because it's a way for me to develop. It's a way for me to position at international level. And why they are also successful, it's because they oriented the innovation to the customer. It's not technology, but it's technology. It has to be for the human development, for an increase in the quality in health, for the service of the people, with a very powerful internal market. And this is why Chinese people are succeeding. And now, since 2016, the government in China is launching the 13 plan. This 13 plan is the one from 2016 to 2020, dedicated for innovation. Now, China is not thinking about economic development. It's thinking about innovation. This is what we want to have. This is what we will support in terms of development. Look here at the main figures for innovation, for the next steps. What are the main objectives? Here, they say that we have to develop, to invest a lot in environment. Because environment is very important for us. It's where we are living. Maybe Chinese people are producing because they are using old technology, but they won't continue. They will improve a lot in energy and efficiency. Healthcare, financial service, development of infrastructure like new airports, new railway station, and social and economic development. So here is what they focus on, and what is very important for them. It's this topic, ecological and environment. It's not only economic development, but it's also economic development through this sustainability orientation. And they are dedicated more and more share of GDP for research, contribution of technology. Here you could see you have this increase, where in most other countries, such as in Europe, it's a bit decreasing. Here, for China, you see what is sectorial objective for 2025. What they want to invest, it's to go here for new energy vehicles, advanced computer and services. So high-tech, but thinking about sustainability. big innovative companies in China. Alibaba Group, even more important than eBay, Huawei and Lenovo, and so on. What these companies are based on? They are based also on a focus on startup. Look what was the best startup ecosystem ranking at worldwide. It was like Silicon Valley first. And here for China, you have Beijing and Shanghai. It's new because it was not existing even last year. They are completely developing it now, very, very fast. Ecosystem for entrepreneurship with a lot of possibility for startup development. Look at this. We open 15,000 new business companies per day in China. What is about in Brazil? Empreendedorismo na Brazil. And here you have more than 1,600 high-tech incubators since 2000. With this, in a way, is very well known in China. And what people say when they work in Chinese companies, they say what we want is to focus. What is important for us is to foster on innovation. And then there are different things. But what the priority for Chinese leaders is to focus on innovation. To say that innovation should be rooted. It should be rooted in China. Innovation should be focused on what? Cost reduction. It should be adapt to the users. If it's very technological complicated, people won't use all people from China. Innovation should be fast, speed, multi-product. And here, it should be the possibility, if we fail, we can recombine a lot. We have to think in terms of possibility. It's not, I would say, a project we start now and we will see in 2020. No, we have to recombine. We have to be very, very flexible. To create value, Chinese people, futurist people, if you could see if you walk in China, very futurist people dressing, thinking about futurism products. So if you think about the future, you could be innovative. You could increase your technology. And then very entrepreneurial companies. Look, evolution of e-trade, e-commerce. China, it's not the one in US. China is representing up to 2020. It will contribute to 60% of e-trade. It means that digital revolution is completely appearing in China with new way to pay, like what Alibaba is using. The monetary fund is saying if it goes, we won't need any note, any currency, no more dineros, because we will completely use, because it will be blockchain process and so on. So this is what is now happening in China. Look at this. Alibaba, considering the revenue, it's in front of eBay, and it will be more and more profitable than, you see, the profit is more important than the one of Amazon. Innovation in China, this is, I don't know if you have been to Paris, we have the Vélib. Vélib is, you have the bike, but it's connected, it's the same kind here in São Paulo with Bradesco bike. It's completely connected to station. But in China, the bike is everywhere. You just have to locate your bike, and you come with your phone and you zip. It's becoming closer to the users. This is what they are doing. And this is technology. This is, I would say, information system. But it's not inside the product. It's what we have to think in terms of development to bring value for the people. The competitors of Uber, Taxify, coming. Next step, Uber, but maybe Taxify is coming. And we can have here, I would say, autonomous car. Why not? What we are investing. And look, the development of main project in China from 2012 to 2016. The number of kilometers, 9,000, now going to 20,000. Where is the metro in São Paulo? I was there in 2013. Where is the metro station? Where is the high-speed train from São Paulo to Rio de Janeiro? Look what the Chinese people were doing. Just from, I'm not saying you have good things in Brazil, it's different, but look at, it's completely exponential. They say, okay, we want to go fast. There is 5 billion people transporting by train per year, 5 billion people transporting. It's unbelievable. Look, they are building bridge like this, crossing rivers, crossing lakes, and so on. And they invent, for that you have to invent machine to build bridge. What is the metro station from São Paulo city to Guarulhos? I came like 5 years ago and it's not progressing. So why don't you buy this machine to China? They can lend to you. But they also invest here in airplane. Why they are doing such investment? Because they say what we need in China. They focus on what is the priority for China. The priority for China now is the mobility. The priority for China is to be widespread wealth within the country. So we have to invest a lot of project, a lot of investment where it's very necessary in terms of sectors. But also there are thinkings for collaboration with Europe, for going to the space, with the European Chinese platform on the moon. But the next big Chinese project will be to reopen this Silk Road, crossing Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, to be closer to here is where are the customers. And we will have to go maybe 500 kilometer per hour speed with the Chinese train. So we don't have to need like a lot of time to fly, or it could reduce even the pollution, because if you choose train with power electricity, it can be very sustainable. And this is what is one of the major programs to open the Silk Roads. But they also focus on what is necessary. For instance, the goals for sustainable development. They just gave $1 billion for the United Nations Fund, because they believe that, okay, we have to focus on priority for the environment. Because in China, you have 200,000 Chinese people suffering from air pollution. They are dying each year. 200,000 people dying. So you have to focus on that. You have to make innovation investment for that. And here is the first investor in terms of renewable energy in the world. For sure they are polluting. For sure they are producing. But in the same time, they try to do best. It's two-step. Development economic, but in the same time, meanwhile, environmental investment, environmental efficiency. And this environmental efficiency and this environmental energy will match with the economic development ones. And this is what they are investing a lot. Here, total investment in energy sectors. For instance, wind, look what is happening like this, the number of wind powers. They cover Wu Lake with a solar plant. It's very easy for them because they own is it silicium, or I could not remember, to fix the solar plant. So here you see also what we think about is China Smart Cities project, thinking about developing new countries, like building with architecture, energy efficiency, connected object, technology. This is here one of the best smart cities in the world. I always prevent to spell it. Tianjin. It's a very, very huge program now for 500,000 people building cities. I will go fast. Just 2 countries and we will finish. I will finish with Brazil. India. India is coming. India is coming. Look at these figures. It starts. But India is a very rural country. Here is going from what you see here, the increase in the GDP. They were doing pretty good. What was the evolution of the French GDP, or European GDP, or Brazilian GDP? So you see it's like China. Here is what we are focusing on. You see everything in India is linked to environmental condition as well. So they have to think about this approach. Figures like you have to compare elephant versus dragon. In few times, India will progress soon over China because due to population. But they are not. India is not a big country for research and development. They have some, but they don't dedicate. They only dedicate less than 1% of their GDP to research and development expenditure. Because we don't have to focus on that. The point we have to focus is poverty, how we deal with poor people. And we have to do, it doesn't mean, it's not because I'm doing research and development that I'm not doing innovation in India. Here is research and development. For instance, we have these big companies. We have success model like Tata. Tata is an example how you can provide a car for less than $2,000 for people. Where are the Brazilian producers for car? Can you provide for $2,000 a car in Brazil? This is what we are doing because Tata is investing a lot in terms of technology. Why they are not, research and development is not a priority, but innovation, transformation of the country is a priority. Because of this, look what they managed to succeed, the reduction of poor people here. And here is the figures. You have like, I would say 5 years ago, you have 400 million people living with less than $1 per day. Now there is 200 million people living with less than $1 per day, the equivalent of the Brazilian population. Poverty. Maybe people are poor in Brazil, but in India it's even, I would say, worse, unfortunately. Here is some figures about Indian poverty. These people living without any, I would say, condition. Indian poverty is something to take into account. So based on that, based on what is the reality of India, we have to see what we can propose. Are we able to propose computer devices, technology to Indian people? No, it's not what they need. It's not what they search. They are searching to have a house. They are searching to eat. They are searching to transport. So innovation is not based on technology. It's part of, but it's not only that. We have this different approach, the Jugaad innovation, the grassroots innovation, nano, frugal, reverse, inclusive AAA, innovation, Ganjan innovation. Here, start with the Jugaad innovation. Jugaad innovation is, okay, we have to make innovation being practical, simple. I have a problem. I don't have the technology. I don't have any finance, resource, or even investment. So what I can do, I have to be very adaptive, to be very practical. The most innovative should be based on what you feel, what you can propose. So here the Jugaad innovation is based on innovation by the common Indian. People who are in the streets, look at this. They used this motorcycle to make a drain for water treatment. With this principle for the Jugaad innovation, seek opportunity, make it with the less, because we don't have any resource. Think and develop flexibility and so on. So here you could see that most of the Chinese people are focused with innovation. 40% of the Indian people are turned to innovation. Look what they propose. It's practical innovation, design innovation, problem, solution. Make it simple. Try to, okay, I have this, it's like, I don't know if you have this MacGyver, you know, the American series. It's like this. This is MacGyver innovation. The Jugaad innovation is make innovation simple, practical with what you have, with not much investment. And this is what they are doing, innovative for better future, innovating for their life. Because if they are not innovating, they are maybe dying. So they are obliged to innovate. It's a constraint for innovation. It's a necessity. So this is here, I would say, to develop transports and so on. We have another approach, which is the grassroots innovation. The grassroots innovation, you have among 70% of the Indian population living in rural area. What these people are doing in rural area, they're also dealing with innovation. So here we have this professor, his name Gupta. He's developing what we say the grassroots innovation in terms of the Indian model of management for innovation is very good. Professor Gupta is sending his students on the land to see how people are developing, finding solutions. It's like if you were you student from Polytechnica or from FAIR going to favela and see how people answer to problem in the reality. And they try to observe and they try to bring their knowledge. So here is make things very simple. It develops the SRISTI, the Society for Research Initiative, Sustainable Technology and Institution, saying that, okay, we have the knowledge, we are engineer, we are manager, but we have to connect to the reality and to go to see what it is going, where the traditional people, poor people in the land are developing, see what they are. Do you think this is innovation? You can use to transport, you can adapt this, you can this, and you can, when you are in the city, if you are developing your agricultural product, it's following here the different stage. And this is what people are practically doing in terms of innovation. Does it need some technology? No. It's creativity. It's very practical innovation. So here, this is what they are doing, observing what rural contributors are doing. Even encouraging students for developing such a program. Frugal innovation. Innovation in India, you have a lot of people, more than 1 billion to 200 million people. So innovation should be very inclusive, should be for everybody. If you have an innovation, it's not for rich people. It's not only for people who live in, I would say, Alphaville or Jardins. It should be also for people who are very poor. Look at this. Jaipur foot. It costs only $28. Low computer, the Tata, the nano car, $2,500 US. Here it's a vaccine for hepatitis, 40 cents. Innovation should be widespread for everybody. You could not make innovation just for business. You make innovation for the society, for better life. And you see here it's the development in the process. AAA approach for innovation in India, like it should be available, affordable, and accessible innovation. Look at this computer, this tablet, $35. It doesn't have to be like iPad. It should be for all the Indians because we have a I would say poor wealth condition in India. Look at this treatment for keratin. Here it costs. Where is the cost? I forget the cost. €7 to get an operation for when you are old. La cataract. €7 for the cataract. If this technology is coming in Brazil, if these people are coming in Brazil and they open, I would say the medicine, some people in hospital say, you can maybe double the price. But they have to do that for poor people, and this is what we have to think. Here is nano innovation for everybody, so it's make it simple, but it works. I can tell you, for instance, you know the film Gravity with Sandra Bullock? Gravity, the film, the movie with Sandra Bullock. It cost to the blockbuster $100 million. $100 million to make the film Gravity. But from that, we have a lot of return in terms of million and millions. You know, Indian engineer, women, were sending a satellite to the space costing 65 million. It costs more to do a film on space in Hollywood than for Indian engineer to send a real Indian woman engineer to send some, how do you say, satellite to the space. They are inspired by the Gandhi. Gandhi was, I would say, engineer thinking about how we can use renewable energy. He was trying to develop micro power plants, like 60 years ago. And you know, some people who inspire think different. But Gandhi was saying, be the change you wish to see in the world. Think different. It's the same kind of approach in terms of innovation. Easy, practical, movement, inclusive for everybody. And because we have these big figures, like people living under the level of wealth, very rural, it's completely the opposite of Brazil, we will see. And they have to think about all of this. So innovation. Yes, and the last point for innovation before turning to Brazil, you see here, patent is increasing, but in India, you should do your project in open source. If you have the knowledge, you will keep the knowledge for you. You will keep the knowledge to make money and business, where you have 200 million people dying, living in poverty. No, innovation and research development is mainly in open source, because it's the philosophy. We have to go together, to go beyond, to try to develop and to solve the main social and environmental problem. Let's finish with Brazil. What is going on in Brazil from my point of view of innovation, considering here global perspective for innovation, Brazilian culture of innovation, democratic cropping, political situation in Brazil, and so on. When I was coming in Brazil, like 3 years ago, it was this issue. What it was going now. So this is what people know from Brazil. This. President Temer, Eduardo Cunha, Dilma Rousseff, and so on. This is what is happening. So what was changing? The issue also in Brazil was how we can do innovation. We have some issues like corruption. Okay. Is it like this? Do you think it's going like this now in Brazil for the economic development? If we look to some figures, recent figures in terms of evolution for GDP, here you see the evolution of GDP from a long period in Brazil. So you see international crisis. So you see here, you are here. It was a very, very bad situation this last 2-3 years, because you have this decrease in terms of economic growth. What was happening in, for instance, in many, many sectors, like in the construction sectors, people being completely unemployed. So it was very hard situation. But it's starting to become a little bit better. It was like this, but it's starting to become a little bit better. So here you have the evolution of some figures. But what is to some figures here in Brazil is the debt. How you can develop for the future if you have to pay for the past. And this is the point. So here you have the evolution of the public debt in Brazil up to 2017. So it's going like this. And the problem in the debt in Brazil, it's that most of the debt is international financial debt with a high level of interest rate. So it means that you are paying for the past. But how you can invest in the future. So here is the main contribution, the budget from the Brazilian government. You could see most of the budget from Brazil is paying what? The debt. So it's this is here and the different contribution for the different situation. But if you see how it's going, it was bad. But now, from this last expectation from FGV, the situation is starting to become a little bit better for the trust we have for business. Here is, for instance, the trust for the consumer, the industry, based on 2017 November. So you see, it's becoming legal, returning. So it means that now we are expecting Brazil to be back in the at worldwide level. So you see here the incentive for investment. Okay, it was this. But now incentive for investment is trying to return to what it was. Produção industrial. You see now Brazil is recovering from this. We have all the positive indicators returning. So it should continue, 2017, 2018, 2016. It's not like Brazil take off. It was a little bit like this, but now it's returned to be good. Brazil has to consider fundamentals. You have the conjecture, the macroeconomic conjecture, but you have also what are the fundamentals, the structure. Brazil is a big country. For instance, here you could see that you have most of the, I would say, the whole European countries, you can put them in Brazil. Important resource, Minas Gerais, natural resources. And Brazil is, I would say, the natural bank, the natural resources bank of the world. You could see from that, China, resources, production, resources. And this is the maritime transport. So if you have some fundamental resource, you have to use that. Maybe it's policy and so on, but if you have resource, it means that you have some possibility for investment. Natural resources, which is very, very important and being recognized. Brazil is owning 55% of the biodiversity in the world. 55% of biodiversity. Biodiversity is I would say, the next step for the transformation, the evolution of Amazon. País muito urbanizados. 85% of Brazilians are living in cities. Innovation, smart cities, it's the place where we have to think for innovation. Companies like development of Petrobras. Brazil investing a lot in terms of strategic sectors, defense sectors, the submarine, the defense. DCNS is the French collaborating with France. Keeping here with China, but China, as you could see, is going very up. But it's not so bad because you have here some companies starting, to made in Brazil, Foxconn for Apple phone, launching some project. China is collaborating with Europe, but it is also collaborating for space exploration with Brazil. So it's a Chinese year Brazilian project. A lot of collaboration with Africa. You could see here the complementary between both countries. Because most of the orientation for Brazilian product is for Africa. Good university development. The level of education is increasing in Brazil. And you could see here sectors where the Brazilian companies will enter in the next 10 decades. Like for automobile, civil aerospace, energy, efficiency, environmental sustainable development, and ICT. But yeah, this is what I was saying to you, the evolution of patent in Brazil. It could be 70, but maybe now progressing, but less than 100 patent. But if it's a Brazilian patent, it's a lot of money investment. We have the value for Brazil, considering to what is the culture. Brazil es un país de todos, the diversity of the culture in Brazil. With Ordem e Progresso, Stefan Zweig, the Long of Opportunity. And Brazil is also, I know, political situation, economics problem, but it's looking for the development. And there is big issues from the north to the south, and not only from Sao Paulo. The diversity of the culture here in Brazil is essential. People coming from different regions in the world. There are not so many French people, so maybe this is why you are not striking a lot. You have Italian people for creativity, German people why the Brazilian society is a bit in order, Chinese and Asian people. Very colorful, very creative countries. And this is innovation. How you can create from an inspiration from the, I would say, the nature, or inspiration from the life. Considering that Brazil is very well known at international level for the design, the value of the Brazilian design, which is very, very essential here. We recognize, if it's made in Brazil, people in Europe will say it's good. And for instance here, look, we make a product very simple. We make Havaianas, because in Rio, we don't need this kind, I would say, of shoes. For instance, me, when I was having some conference in Rio, I was working with this in Copacabana in Ipanema. So, no, it doesn't suit. You have to make shoes adapted to the reality. So they invented this. They invented the bikini as well. So you could see this powerful interest for innovation. But also big companies like Marco Polo, Petrobras, Natura, Embraer, but with some problems we know here. But Brazil is one of the leading countries in terms of transport sectors. So I would say Brazil is their future for innovation. Yeah, it's going through, it's progressing. So I would like to thank you here. Yes, I would like to thank you because I was a little bit long, just for you to think that innovation is not only, I would say, technology, but it's how the world is changing. What is about the technological progress, where the society is going. Because if you don't take the change of the society, the change of the science, you will turn around, restore, repair, innovate. But what you have to do is to introduce the novelty in the reality for innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Florent. Very nice presentation. Very exciting one. And, thank you. And I think that we have time for a couple of questions or comments. If you want, please. Some question, comments? No questions, no comments. Yes, please.
Thank you. You presented a very, I would say, a colorful panoramic view of the world through the lenses of innovation or the lenses of the intent of innovation. So thank you very much. And I think it needs some time to digest and to compare. But I have basically first a request. You had at the last seconds, you had, I think, one slide trying to put what is common in the world. So if you could, at some point, if you could just show us, if you, no, I think it was one of the, you didn't show really the slide before that. Oh, no, after Brazil. It was after Brazil. Yes, elementos comuns, exactly. Can you make it bigger so...
Yes, so here I didn't want to be... If you see what is going on with big companies who are innovative companies in the world, the one who succeed in innovation from France, Germany, Europe, US, China, India, Brazilian companies, they share some spirit in terms of management, considering here that what companies should do is that first they have to consider that innovation is something very important for them. Innovation is a central value. I'm not doing business, but I try to do innovation. I try to consider here what is the main value I can create. What is the value for the customer? What is the value for my collaborator? How I can here think about the future and think in terms of progress. So this is here. Think first about innovation. The second point is focusing on users. India focusing on users. China, they say, okay, we have to develop project because it's based on our development. So here is consider human-centric approach. Focus on user, customers, workers, collaborator. If you say, I will do the technology and I will see after that what I can do with that, it's not working. You have to think about being very practical. Then you have to be the best researcher, the best manager, the best employee, everything should be the best professional expertise. If you have the best engineer, the best manager, but if the workers are not good, how the production system can be efficient? So innovation is a matter of excellence, a diversity of excellency. People should be open to the world, open for the novelty, open for the change, open for the technology. The diversity, you can succeed in innovation, for instance, engineer, with someone in management, with someone in philosophy, someone from China working with someone from India. From a diversity, the possibility of combination, the possibility of creation is very, very important. So here is the diversity talents which are essential. And then it's take initiative. Innovation, if you want to innovate, you don't have to expect someone to say, I allow you to innovate. No, you say, I want to innovate. Take the initiative, working together, trabajo en equipe, project team, experimentação. You have to try. You have to fail. El direito de fracasar. Sometimes when you fail, you can learn from your failure. It's good to fail, but you have to understand why you fail. If you fail and if you don't do a feedback, you cannot progress. So this is in big companies, they learn what they fail. And it's the leadership in innovation. These are, I would say, what is the main value for companies at worldwide level. And then they adapt this kind of recipe to some market, to some culture, and so on.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Please let me know, what is the perception from Europe about Brazil right now, currently? Used to be emerging power. today is like lame duck. You can be honest. Don't need to be diplomatic. What is the real perception?
Me, I am from, I would say, middle class, middle French, middle professors, and so on. So when we speak about Brazil, we have in mind developing countries with favelas. This is what we have in mind. But if you arrive here, you observe that it's a very well-developed countries, and we know that we have this objective for development in Brazil, which are important. But we don't have from European side, from middle people, we don't know how powerful is Brazil in terms of technology, in terms of development. Because we only think about what is around us, European market. And
sorry, I'm talking about elites. I'm talking about elites.
The elites?
Elites, the elites, not average people.
And for the elites, you have the perception for Brazil, which is, I would say, the design, lack of productivity in terms of business, big countries. You could not have the same perception from Brazil from the north to São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro. So we have an impression about what is Brazil, but not what is São Paulo, what is Rio. So for the elite, I think there is a positive appreciation about Brazil. Everybody loves, I would say, Brazil. It's a good brand. In the way that it's very attractive. But the point is, we don't hear much about what is Brazil, because I think the advertising of Brazil in Europe is not as what it could be, because when you are here, you see the development, you see the innovation, and from Europe, we don't have this view. So there is a discrepancy between the perception and the reality. But it's a matter of brand.
Okay, thank you. One more question, comments?
You said that in the beginning of the presentation, that academic production as a source of innovation will make double in the next years. Is that right? I would like you to make a short comment about how United Kingdom has been acting with its academy resources to serve the European markets into this context of political and social recession, Brexit, and everything else. Please.
How the United Kingdom is
serving its academy production to European market.
Considering the political situation with the Brexit.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So now I would say most of the British production is services. Financial services, IT services. We are not very sure about what the process is going, because there is a kind of discussion between the European Commission and United Kingdom. Most of big companies, such as bank companies, decided to implement their structure close to Frankfurt or even to Paris. Some sectors in health sectors now are removing to Netherlands. So in terms of service, as we don't know what is going on for the next role in terms of collaboration, if we have I would say, a joint agreement between the United Kingdom and Europe, things will continue as it's going. But what the European countries are looking is to say, you decided to go out of Europe. So you could not benefit from, I would say, some economic support from free trade agreements and be out. So the situation is, I would say, to be expected. We don't know. What is for the manufacturing now? I think it's not the specialization of England, but for services, it's very, I would say, very bad, because we have some European regulation, and we don't know how as England is exiting from the European market, they will do some law to convert, if they are keeping the same law. We could have an equivalent, and the agreement will be easy. But if they exit from the Europe, and if they adapt new law for British rules, then we have to make some agreement, and we have to see how it's going. So we will have to keep strong relation with England, for sure, because it's it's a closer country. But it's depending on the rules negotiation. I'm optimistic because if you see what is going on, for instance, in the discussion with Canada, or what is going on even with the discussion for Latin America, for instance, food, Europe is trying, to be very open for commercial discussion. But the point is how United Kingdom will transfer new rules for many things in terms of service. And Europe wants to locate some activities back in France to give the chance, or in Netherlands.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that's time to finish. We have on time now. And I want to thank you, Florent, to thank you, the audience, to stay here. And I hope to see you in the next event here in Institute. Okay, thank you very much.